Hello, and welcome back to The Director's Cut, brought to you by the Directors Guild of America, where each episode we bring you a fresh and insightful new interview with one of the film industry's top directors, conducted by one of their peers. Remember to subscribe to our podcast on Google Play Music, iTunes, Stitcher, or on our SoundCloud page at soundcloud.com/The Director's Cut. And if you're enjoying The Director's Cut, please take a moment to like, share, or comment. We love hearing your feedback. This episode takes us behind the scenes of director Jason Hall's new film, Thank You for Your Service. The film tells the story of 4 U.S. soldiers who try to cope with their return stateside after a tour in Iraq. As they struggle to readjust to civilian life, lingering memories and wounds sustained in the war threaten to destroy them long after they've left the battlefield. Thank You for Your Service is Mr. Hall's feature directorial debut. He earned an Academy Award nomination for Best Writing Adapted Screenplay for pending director Clint Eastwood's 2014 feature, American Sniper. Following a recent screening of the film at the DGA Theater in Los Angeles, Mr. Hall spoke with fellow director Bradley Cooper about filming Thank You for Your Service. During their conversation, Mr. Hall discusses his use of color to amplify the alien world of civilian life, the advice Taylor Hackford gave him on how to game the system when editing a film, and why motivating others was how he dealt with the pressure of directing his first feature film.
Afternoon. Hey. Let's get to congratulations, by the way.
Thank you, buddy.
This is your first movie.
It is.
Have you always wanted to be? Yeah. Jason and I worked together on American Sniper, and we knew each other a little bit before that, and then we became very close. And it wasn't a shock that he was going to do this, but that you did it so well is incredible. I really love the movie.
Thanks, man.
We have a similar experience because I just directed a movie for the first time, and crew is everything. So I'd like to just talk a little bit about how you assembled the crew that worked on this film, and if you could talk a little bit about the cinematographer and all that.
Yeah. Roman Vazhinov, it was our DP, and he's from Russia. He came over here, I think, maybe 12 years ago, and he's been doing smaller films. He's done a bunch of David Ayer's movies, and but some of the stuff he did in the beginning of his career in Russia was very captivating, and we just talked a lot about the difference. He wanted me to watch a bunch of Tarkovsky films, so we were watching a lot of Tarkovsky. But it was very planned out. The color. I think these guys come back and there's such an alien world that I wanted to amplify some of the color and the texture of this world that they come back into. That's obviously their world, but not familiar.
Yeah, specifically when Solo's in the cafeteria and you see the bright red of the Slurpee and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, that really showed.
And it's sort of shocking. And how do you contrast them and not let them assimilate to their environment? At the same time, Hope Hannafin, who did the costumes, we met, and she had this great idea about how to allow the audience further into the characters by eliminating all patterns. And so we eliminated patterns in all the clothing and made everything base colors so that the audience could assimilate with the characters and not have anything interfering between them and the audience. So I thought that was really an elemental choice in what we did, and using colors that also made it so that this could have been 1970, this could have been 1945, trying to give it a timelessness so that it didn't stick out. That this was totally contemporary, because while this is a story about contemporary soldiers, it's a story about every veteran who's ever served and every veteran who's ever tried to come back.
And Keith Cunningham, because that's part and parcel is your production designer, which is key to what you're talking about. And that he was incredible. I thought the look and where did you shoot it?
We shot in Atlanta
and Morocco, right?
Morocco, same Rabat. Where we
that bank
Sniper.
When the geese, when he shoots himself, which is, you see in movies when, a gunshot happens and geese fly, and you had them in the back of the bank. That was just kind of incredible.
Yeah, it's at the bank, and then you have it again in Iraq when off the top of the roof with the doves. Yeah. No, Keith was great. He actually came on only 2 weeks before production because we had someone who couldn't. We were at a lower budget. We had $20 million, and it was we had someone who was having a real challenge getting the work done, and so Keith came in and saved our hide for sure.
Well, that's not much time.
That's not much time. I mean, I had a good idea about the sets and how to dress everything, but it was he hustled.
Is it an asset having written the movie that you're directing?
I think so, because I think you've thought about it so much. I can't write something if I don't know what the room looks like. So that was an asset, as a director. But having spent that amount of time, I wrote the script it took me almost 2 years. I started writing it before, Steven came on to American Sniper, right? Steven Spielberg was going to direct Sniper, and he came on, and we worked with him for a couple months. And during that time, he gave me this book, and he said, I want to do this one too. And then he came off Sniper. So I started writing it shortly after Chris was killed. So that was, that was a good 2 years. I wrote it through after production of Sniper, and I continued to write it.
And did you have a lot of contact with the real people in writing it?
I did. I had a ton of contact with the real people.
And were they on set at all?
Yeah, we brought Adam. They all ended up coming to set. Adam is actually in the film. Adam
right,
Schumann.
He's at the when they come off the plane at the beginning, right?
On the tarmac. Yeah. He says he welcomes himself home. He takes his gun and says, "Welcome home, Sergeant Schumann," which I thought would be a nice reminder to him.
Did you have a lot of military in the movie? Actual military?
Yeah. There was, I tried to cast as many military as I could, and obviously I didn't bet certain roles on it or stoop to do that casting, to do a stunt casting for that. But it was always the best person for the role. But if I could find someone military, I put him in.
Take us through a little bit about how you direct a scene, because I always find that fascinating. How each director has their own way. Some stand by Video Village, some are right there, some use the monitors, some don't. No,
I was always close. I as you know, I was an actor for a long time, and so I'm very invested in how to get them comfortable, how to get them into a rhythm, how to break down anything that doesn't feel real, how to get to the truth of what the scene is, and
would that mean potentially going away from the script, or would you change stuff on the day?
I would change stuff. I would change stuff from the script if they felt there was something. The script throughout the pre-production I kept changing the script, because I think once you start finding locations, the truth of the script gets moved forward, and you have a higher bar for what the truth is. And once you start finding the truth of every scene, some of the scenes have to change to become more honest. So it was about pushing that line forward of how truthful could we make it, and that was my approach as a director too, was not to do anything, not to do any camera moves or any work that was going to call attention to the directing of the film, but was I wanted the audience to feel like they were a fly on the wall. I wanted to almost remove myself from the process so that it felt like less like a movie that was directed and more like an examination of being put into these people's lives.
The one scene that really struck me is when Solo breaks down after playing was a Call of Duty.
Yeah.
That scene. Yeah. I really did feel like I was a fly on the wall.
Yeah.
That scene really just crushed me when I saw the movie. What was he's a first time actor, right?
Yeah.
What was that?
Two shorts and a small feature from Auckland, New Zealand.
Didn't you think his performance was incredible? Yeah, he was really blew me away.
That was yeah. I auditioned 1,400 people for that role before I found him. Wow. So it was to the point where everyone thought I was crazy, and they started to stop trusting me. It was like.
Did you have to convince people that he was the right guy?
Well, yeah. Once I found him, I knew he was the guy. But then, literally everybody else.
Just to backtrack for a second, to talk a little bit about the audition process with him and all the 1,400 people.
Well, a lot of the 1,400 do tape. So you're watching a bunch of tape on the internet, and then and then you see somebody who's good, and you're pulling them in. But very hard to find an American Samoan. Tosolo Aedi is an American Samoan. A large part of our army is our American Samoans. These guys are a big part of our fighting force, and there's just like there's a kindness and this warrior spirit to the real Tosolo Aedi, and I wanted to be honest to that, and I wanted to be true, and I got pushed towards casting, to casting an actor who was more well known, who was African American or a Puerto Rican actor, or somebody like that, and it was very important to me to cast an American Samoan. But yeah, once I got his tape, he was this. He had to go self-tape, and it cost $50 to go into a video an audition place, and you pay them $50, and they let you do it, and they run the scene with you, and then they cut it up and get your best take, and then they send it off. Well, that $50 was a lot of money to him, and he was he raised his 4 brothers, and so that $50 meant he wasn't going to eat for the rest of the week, and so it was he was really on the fence about auditioning because it meant that they were going to go hungry for the rest of the week. And that's kind of where that kid's life was at when he took the audition. He now says it was the best $50 he ever spent, but it could have gone either way.
And has he worked since?
He is. I had a friend call me, and he said, "Hey, did you end up ever finding an American Samoan?" Because I was like on this warpath to find an American Samoan. So I called my friend who runs Hawaii 5-0, figuring they would have had an Islander or someone assimilate to that, and he didn't, but he ended up calling me after the movie. This kid went home. The kid got here with $4 in his pocket to Atlanta. He didn't know that he could order food at the hotel. And so he found apples in the gym. He spent his $4 the first day. He found apples in the gym. So he lived off apples for 3 days. Apples and water, and he was going crazy. And he finally asked the lady at the front desk if he could send her a check once he finally got paid. And he was like, "Here's my information. I promise I'll pay you back. Can I just order some food?" And she's like, "You can order anything you want. The studio pays for it." And he was like, and he just started crying.
Wow.
Yeah, but he finished the movie. He went back to Auckland and started working again as a trainer, which he had done before for $20 a pop. And my friend Peter Lenkoff ended up calling me and said, "Did you find an American Samoan?" I said, "Buddy, I found like the best kid."
Yeah.
Because he's such a sweetheart, and he crushed it, and he's so good, and just such a good heart, this kid, and so I ended up sending him a little bit a taste of who he was, and he cast him without ever meeting him.
Wow.
He's the new lead on Hawaii 5-0.
Oh, wow. He is? Oh,
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So he went from not having $4 to like,
Now he's an
yeah. Yeah, pretty much. He's a hot shot, yeah.
So talk about how many days did it take to shoot it? Or did you have to shoot it?
41.
41.
Yeah.
Not much.
No, not much, but
But that's a healthy number.
Healthy, yeah.
And was the budget manageable?
The budget was 20.
Okay.
Yeah.
And tell me about the process of how many pages basically did you do a day, or did it vary?
I mean, it varied. Some of those scenes are you're sitting in a therapy session, so you're able to do more because there's not a ton of setups. I was trying not to move the camera, like I said, unless I felt that it enhanced the psychological our psychological insight into the character. I wouldn't move the camera. I had to have a very real reason to move the camera.
And you and I talked. We
Yeah.
talked about the movie when you were in editing it early
Yeah.
on, and I in the final product I saw you got rid of a couple of things like the burning,
Yeah.
and how hard is it to let go of things that you shot that you loved? Because that's sort of one of the bigger things that you have to do, right? When you're sculpting the movie.
Yeah. Bradley came into the editing process and was super helpful in pushing me to get rid of anything that I didn't think was totally truthful. And it's kind of, you hit those markers, right, in making a film where it's like you hit that thing and it's like, okay, I've got to do this. We're going to cut that part to be able to make the movie, or we're going to put this person in to be able to make the movie, or we're going to, Now you get to that part in editing where it's like, okay, we have a movie here, but it's not as good as it could be. And it's, how am I going to get to that next? What are we going to give up? What are we going to take out? And I think you get to that point, and I'm willing to kill every baby. Like, right. I have no problem killing babies. Right. It's metaphorically killing babies. But it's, we definitely killed some babies, and it was about finding the deepest level of truth and taking out anything I didn't believe in the movie, and then seeing if the movie still makes sense.
Right.
And finding a way to craft the movie around the truth of what you came away with. You have the 3 movies. You have the one you wrote, the one you shot, and then the one you edit. And they're different movies.
Speaking of editing, talk a little bit about Jay Cassidy, who was your editor.
Who you introduced me to was, I started out with an editor. I actually got very interesting advice. I don't know if I told you this, from Taylor Hackford, who was editing down the hall. And I said, "Hey, Taylor, it's my first movie. Give me some advice." He had done a Q&A with Clint during Sniper, and was great. And he said, "Edit as long as you possibly can, and then right when you're coming up to your deadline, call the studio and tell them you messed up and you got to start over."
Really?
Yeah. And then edit as long as you possibly can. And then if you get to the end of that and you can do it again, do it again.
Wow.
And he was like, "You're going to learn more editing the film than you would shooting 3 movies. You will learn more editing one movie than you would shooting 3 of them," which totally makes sense once you're down to it. So I had started out with an editor who came through the production process with us, and then you're done and you're both sitting in a room together, and you find out, this is my first film. I find out I didn't see the movie, the same movie. We weren't seeing the same film. And so I ended up going to Jay, which was a great move. I met Jay when you were doing your test.
Right.
You were shooting your test with Lady Gaga for Stars Born, and he was a lifesaver.
And do you talk a little bit about as a director in the editing room? What do you look at, all the dailies? Do you look at all the? What's your entrance into the process?
Yeah, I mean, when the film was over, I went through everything. I just looked at everything.
You did?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I watched all of it, and it was. I was supposed to be on vacation, and my wife really appreciated that I did that. We're in Morocco, and I watched all the dailies, and it was very exciting for her. But it was about finding the stuff because I remember the takes that I loved. I remember what I thought I got, and then going back and seeing if it was actually there, or if your perception in the moment, if you had gotten excited about something that wasn't actually there, if you had brought too much emotion to the scene as a director, so you weren't seeing what was there. That was a big challenge for me, is to take all my emotion out of it once I got to the set. Right. And not be Mr. Excited director who's pumping everything up and has some idea of what we've got, but really being level-headed and concise and almost ruthless in collecting things, and not being emotional about it in the moment, and not blowing a bunch of smoke up my own.
Do you remember any days that were the hardest? Did you remember one day that was the hardest of filming, and how you get through? I mean, did you ever have one of those days where the level of pressure is so high you think you're going to actually explode? And then how did you deal with that? So you could still be the leader.
Right. It's it's challenging, because what I found in this was I had a lot of people who cared. I found people that cared about the subject. So I found people that had some personal connection to the military or to soldiers, and I corralled those people. Then you have a whole group who doesn't have any connection, and they did a job before yours and they got a job after yours, and it's like, how am I going to motivate that guy? How am I going to motivate this prop guy who keeps coming up with blanks? And he's bringing me stuff he used in 55 other movies, and it has nothing to do with my characters. And so it was about finding those guys and motivating those guys, and finding a way to give them the best idea, to let the best idea in the room be theirs, even if you came up with it. Okay. You know what I mean? And really investing in those people.
Incorporate them in the process. Basically.
Incorporate them in the process.
Creative process.
And give them credit for everything, even if they didn't do it. You know what I mean? Because that's when a person gets excited, when they feel like they're contributing.
When they're lied to.
Collaborating. They're what?
I said when they're lied to.
When they're lied to. No, but you plant an idea with someone,
of course.
and they develop it, and they come back and they're like, hey, I've got a great idea. And you're like, that's amazing.
One of the most exciting things for me in film is how collaborative it is.
Yeah.
It's like that's what I thrive off of, and that did you find that? I mean, you're speaking to it a little bit, but like your cast, for example, and talking about authenticity, which is clearly you succeeded in. How did you get your actors to bring all of themselves? I thought Miles was incredible.
Yeah,
I think that's like one of the best things I've ever seen him do.
Yeah. No, I think a lot of it is in the preparation. A lot of it is in leading up to it, and I worked a lot. I knew with Beulah that he was the problem with casting him, and everyone said it was, if this guy is off, the movie's dead.
Right, of course.
And
what was that casting process? We're talking about Miles Teller. What was the casting process for that role, which is arguably
Miles,
the most
it was
important?
pretty easy for me. I had watched all his work. I'd seen him in Rabbit Hole, and I felt like this was
Rabbit Hole.
An extension of Rabbit Hole that was like an adult version.
Did you see his
of
performance in Rabbit Hole? Did any of you in the band? Yeah, he was incredible. Yeah.
Yeah. No, he stepped out of film, acting school, and he stepped across from Nicole Kidman and Eckhart, and just totally held his own. And he's a guy who he brings real emotion to a moment, so much so that sometimes who was the actor? Was it not Eleanor Deuce? This old stage actress who was able to blush. He's like Miles. If he gets emotional in the moment, you can see it in his face. His body reacts to emotion that he's having as an actor, but the emotion for him is real. And so it's he's got a gift, that guy. So he was my first choice, and we got along pretty well. He has a connection to the military. All his friends are in the military. He got into a car accident, and the guy who was driving was his best friend, was in the military and rolled the car, and Miles got thrown out and his friend didn't, and died in the accident. So he also brought a level of understanding of trauma to the role, and I thought that was important as well. But the Beulah thing, everybody said, my producer was the one time I had a disagreement with my producer, totally disagreed, and he said, you can't cast this guy.
John Killick, right?
Killick. Yeah. And
he said what?
Spielberg as well said, you can't, this is the lead of the movie, very much, the co-lead of the movie. And so I spent all my time, I basically bet my job on Beulah, and then I spent a lot of time with him preparing for the role and building memories with him, building the moments of trauma, and like really walking him through what it looked like, sending him a lot of pictures, and then taking those pictures, and he was in Auckland for most of it, and walking through pictures of, some really grisly stuff, and finding a way to bring those memories to life for him, to build in him sense memory. And I had him using rotten meat. I had him go to the butcher, get some meat, put it outside, and then in a Ziploc. And then after 3 days, we'd work with the memory, and then we'd work with the, use the meat at the same time. So we'd use the smell of this meat. And so then when we were on set, I'd bring the meat and have the memory come up, and he's got all of it. And then it was just about sitting on him and really making him like, okay, you've got it, it's there, now don't do it.
Right.
Now forget about it. Like, put it away. Try and put it away. Try and get it to go away. We don't need it anymore. Get it to go away. I don't remember what the question was.
That was interesting. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about the other cast, the home life, Coming Home, the wives, Amy Schumer and the Miles' wife and Solo's wife, and also the woman who worked in the bank. They were all great.
Yeah. Haley Bennett plays Saskia, and she, she's an actress who just brings raw emotion. There's a realness to her, and if you can get her in those moments, she's actually also, I feel, living in front of camera, which is hard to find. And look, it's hard to find in actors under 40 that have subtlety, that can be silent and have a lot going on. And it's hard to find in actresses as well that ability to be comfortable in a messiness, to be comfortable in the sort of messiness of life, which is what I was looking for from her. Someone who's tough too, who has the has the chutzpah to actually say to this guy, like, hey, I'm tougher than you are, but I can handle all this shit, but I can't handle silence. And for you to believe that this she is tougher than him. That was the challenge, to have someone who had that strength, but also who had enough vulnerability that we could relate to her, and we could understand that she's got her own war that she's fought in his absence. And she thought the end of the war was when he walked off the plane, and then that goal line gets moved, and it's, no, this is not the end of the war. The end of the war now has an indefinite date, and you got to find a way to fix this soldier.
And tell me a little bit about his son. The casting of that baby was incredible. That baby. Where did you find that baby?
We auditioned a lot of babies.
I've never seen a baby look like that.
Almost as many babies as I did pit bulls.
Really?
Yeah. It's a lot of pit bulls and a lot of babies.
Yeah, pit bull was incredible too.
So the babies were twins, and there's two sets of babies. So there was the younger one, and then the baby gets older. The drop baby was great too.
Yeah.
The drop baby.
But the diner baby killed me. Yeah, and then with the pancakes.
The diner baby is great. Yeah.
Jax,
and he's got the difference between him and his brother. His brother got his ear got tweaked on the way out. And so that was the only difference. If you look really hard, you can see one shot's the real Jax, and the other one's the wrestler's ear on the other one. But and then the gymnast baby who would roll off the chest. We got so much flack for the baby in American Sniper. There was all that, like,
oh yeah,
baby talk. So I was like, wait till you see what I'm going to do with this baby.
right.
This baby's getting dropped. Not only am I using a real baby, it's going to drop. And so I was very proud of the reflex when he comes off, that you see his hand go up. Yeah. But no, that baby was a gymnast.
And the pit bull was incredible too.
Yeah, the pit bull was amazing. I literally met, I'd say, 400 pit bulls. I was going to make a movie about the pit bull too while we were making the movie, and then I thought that was a little much. But it was important. Like, what you realize is, you're going to get scrutinized, number one, if you use an animal in film. They don't want you to use animals, pretty much, period. And but I felt we had an opportunity to give this dog a good life. And so we went to some of these pit bull places out in the valley, and found this dog who was just amazing and super trainable. Princess is the dog's name, our fighting pit bull princess.
How old?
She was almost 2. And it was, it was a great story. We ended up training this dog. She would lay there by herself, and they taught her to lay there, and they taught her to kind of shiver and look scared. And it's a beautiful dog who, now lives in Laurel Canyon.
So 2 movies on this subject matter that you wrote, and I know a little bit about how entrenched you get into your subject matter. The title, "Thank You for Your Service." That's sort of that's a term that has taken on a lot of meaning. Chris Kyle would talk about it. That. Tell me about why you made it the title of your movie, and what would you like people to get from that title at the end of the film?
Yeah, it's kind of the only thing that we have to communicate with veterans is this idea of, like, all right, I'm going to say thank you for your service, and I have no idea what they did, what branch they served in, if they deployed or if they didn't, how it was or what that service meant to them. But I'm gonna have this response to them, and it doesn't come out of we do it with good intention most of the time, but a lot of the time, if you really look at it, it makes us feel better. It makes them feel awkward because they don't know what to say other than, well, thank you, or I'd do it again, or it doesn't start a conversation. So
it sort of prevents a conversation.
It prevents a conversation. And so the idea for me was to really put that up there. And then it's, Adam says, he's like, gosh, what are they thanking me for? Putting my guys on the roof where one of them got shot, or the part where I carried him down the stairs, choked on his blood, and dropped him. And it's like, what you realize is there's a real gravity and a real cost to this service that they did. And to sort of take the audience into the cost of that service and into the cost of how it still reverberates through their lives when they come home in this after war. what that means, and deepen our understanding of what it means to serve, and in hopes that we as civilians can take a step closer to understanding them and maybe start a conversation with these veterans and find a way to have an actual conversation with them and really welcome them home. Not not in this sort of rah-rah way, but in a real communal way of like, how do we find a way to talk them, open our arms to them, and welcome these guys home? And that's my hope.
To that, how many have you've shown this movie? You've just gone on a tour. How many military veterans have you shown the movie to, and what was that experience like?
It was great. I mean, of course, first I showed it to Adam, and it was we gave him some popcorn and a Coke, and he didn't touch them, and he cried through a lot of it, and then he got up and he gave me this big hug, and I just held him for like 10 minutes, and he wept, and he was super happy with it, and then we brought all of them in. Emery's in the film. He's in the VA. Emery, who got shot in the head. Amanda and
that actor was incredible.
Yeah.
He's from Atlanta, right?
No, he's from here.
Oh, he is from here.
Scott Hayes. Yeah.
He's amazing.
Yeah. And so we brought the real people in and watched the film with them, which was really intense. I don't think
the car scene when he's driving with Miles. Did you shoot that practically? Was that you were driving? So that was mounted cameras.
Yeah.
Yeah. How fast was he going?
We were going pretty fast.
Yeah.
It was that stuff with the cameras, and we cracked a lens, and it was just it's such a hassle.
What did you shoot the movie on?
Right. Huh?
What camera did you use?
We used the Ari, and we used the Panasonic B lenses. Yeah. Or Panavision B. Was it B? Yeah, B is the older ones that are the old glass that kind of is scratched up.
Just two things I want to mark on before we're almost out. Spielberg, being sort of shepherded by Steven Spielberg. What was that like?
That's pretty intense. The first day that you get a call at lunch, and so you get a call the second day because he's watched the first day's dailies, and it's all right. So here's what I would have done, from Steven, and like the first.
Is that really what he said?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the call is coming, and I was like, oh, I'm working, and then like the phone starts to ring next to you, and then it rings over here, and then it rings over, until somebody answers it, and they're like, hey, you gotta. But I was cognizant of how the process goes when he works with directors, and kind of imparts. He was very, the whole time he was super close, and giving me any advice that I wanted, and we differ sometimes on who the right actor was or actress, and he always left it up to me. He really did. And then you get into that conversation of how he would have done it, and no two people are ever going to shoot it the same way.
Right, of course not. Yeah.
And I had a very specific way of not calling attention to the shots, of not putting stuff in where people would be like, oh, that's a beautiful shot. Like, I didn't want anybody to say, oh, that's a beautiful shot in this movie, because it meant they're not in the scene. It means they're in their head, and they're thinking about, oh, this is a movie.
There are a lot of beautiful shots in the movie.
But hopefully you're not like, wow.
No, it doesn't take me out at all. Yeah. And we have 1 minute and Bruce Springsteen, that last song. How did that happen?
Quickly, so Steven calls and he says, this is how I would have shot it. And like the first day he did it, I knew I had thought about doing exactly what he did, and I had decided not to do it, because it was, number one, it was jumping the line. I was like, oh, they're going to think I don't know what I'm doing. I'm going to jump the line, and they're going to be like, oh, what is this kid doing? He has no idea.
Well, I jumped the line a lot.
I know. But then it was putting the meat. It was the meat scene where the guy's sitting there and he's doing it, and it was shooting it. So you're jumping the line. So the computer's here. Solo's there, and his head is here. So the meat is, so the soldier's between the meat and the man. And you're kind of like saying this, like, oh, there it is. That's what this scene is about. But it's a little bit of a wink, wink. It's a little bit of like, look, we're clever, and we're kind of saying this. And it was exactly what I was trying not to do.
Right.
So it was that thing of like, all right, got it, copy that.
So finding your own voice, basically.
Finding your own voice, and being, I think the reason he allowed me to direct the movie is because I I felt like it was okay to disagree with him when we wrote it.
I'm sure he appreciated that.
Yeah. I mean, I think you have to. If you don't have a voice, then you're either gonna continue to write it or you're gonna get fired.
Right.
And it's like I'd rather get fired.
Writing what you want.
Writing what I want, right, and saying what I believe, than trying to kiss up to somebody who, like, we're all, the creative process. It's like you're trying stuff, it doesn't work, rip it out, take it again, try it again, try something else. Let's try an off-the-wall idea, throw that in there, it doesn't work, rip it out. So I was always very, very candid with him, and I would say I don't think that works, and he'd either agree with me or he'd say do it anyway. I'd do it, and sometimes he'd be like, yeah, you're right, that doesn't work. Or sometimes I'd be proven wrong and find something did work, and his idea was great, and we'd go with that. But, we had a very open relationship, so I felt okay to disagree with him on some of the shots and some of the stuff. But
I don't think you're going to get fired again, and and that you really succeeded. And I hope you make another movie, and I can't wait to see it. Thank you, Jason.
Thanks, man.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks for listening to another DGA Q&A. Don't forget, you can check out past episodes of The Director's Cut wherever you listen to podcasts. As we get deeper into awards season, we'll continue to give you director-focused conversations about this year's most anticipated films. So be sure to subscribe to our podcast to stay up to date on the great discussions we have coming up. And if you're enjoying the podcast, please like, share, and leave us a review. We'd love to hear your feedback. Thanks again for listening, and have a great week. This podcast is produced by the Directors Guild of America. Music is by Dan Wally.